Good morning, welcome back to Herbie's Garage. Today we're going to be working on the Lifan KPR 200. It's a 2022 model. We're going to be doing a valve clearance, gap, valve lash, however you want to say it, check and adjustment procedure. This is the KPR owner's manual. And in the manual, it shows that the valve gap should be adjusted at 6,000 kilometers, which is 3,728 miles, and then every 6,000 kilometers after that, okay? The clearance should be 0.08 millimeter for the intake and 0.12 millimeter for the exhaust valves. Okay, you see that? Okay. Now we're going to get started. And before we get started, I just want to remind you, if you don't know, or tell you, if you do know, or whatever, do not do this procedure unless your engine is cold. Let it sit overnight, preferably about 12 hours or so, and let it get nice and cold. You don't want to do this on a warm engine or a hot engine. So the first thing, take off the rear seat. We'll take off the front seat, 8 millimeters, 2 of them. This panel right here doesn't have to come off, but I'm taking it off for filming. Makes it a little easier to get in there to see the timing mark with the camera. It might make it easier for you as well to take it off to get in there to see it. But that's entirely up to you whether you want to take it off or not. 2 screws and a bolt. Pull the pop pin out. Oops, slide it this way. Disengage the hooks. Okay. Now we're going to come to the other side. Yeah, I'll tilt you down where you can see here a little bit. Okay. We're going to take off this side panel. The side panel does have to come off. Two screws, 8 millimeter bolts. Pop it out, slide forward. Okay. Now, I'll bring you back up here. And I'm going to show you this right here. This piece of plastic up here has to come out next. Okay. There's 3 screws. This one in the back has a larger head, so not to get them confused. And the other 2 in the front have the same size screw head. There's one. There's 2. There's 3. Okay, now make sure you can see this. When you take this panel out, down here at the bottom, down here, it has to push that way a little bit because there's a little like hook. You have to kind of twist it a little to get it. Let me get this out of the way. pop it out just a little bit, like that. Because it's got a little piece right here that tucks under. See if you can see that right there. A little lip that it tucks under. And then here in the front, it's tucked underneath this, see this red piece right here? It's tucked underneath that, so you gotta push it down at the same time you pull it out, like that. And to disengage it from it, see that? While you're here, disconnect your turn signal wires. It's a blue and a green. Sometimes they're a little difficult to get apart. Okay. Now, we're going to take this side fairing piece off. Turn this. Okay. Now, in order to get this side fairing piece off, we have to take screws off in the front here. Now you can take this front panel off if you'd like. Let me get you a little closer where you can see this a little better. There. Okay. Get you a little light. Okay. Now you can take this front panel off if you want to. It's not necessary. I would take it off for filming, but I want to show you the quickest, easiest way to do this valve adjustment without taking any more off than you have to. So we'll just take the big side fairing panel off and leave the other one in and see how that works out. So there's one screw, two screws at the bottom. And we come up here on this side. There's another screw right here. That's number 3. And there's one up here. That's number 4. And then there's one up here on the side. Okay, let's see if you can see this other one. There's another one way up here. It's right up underneath here. I have to take this one off. So now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws out of it. And then down here at the bottom, there's another one. Right here. Take that one out. Okay. Now the fairing is ready to come off. So what you have to do is up here at the top, see this piece right here? You have to lift up and pull it away from that peg that it sits on. Down here at the bottom, there's a push pin right here. You have to pull it out of that, like that. Okay, so now you got that push pin pulled out. You got the piece up on top, lift it off of it. And there's a push pin right here, you have to pop it out. And then the whole thing slides to the rear, like that, and it comes off. And this is what it looks like. This part right here is what slides onto this. This is a metal peg onto the gas tank that has a piece of rubber on it, and this slides over that. Now, sometimes that rubber will come off and be stuck inside here. If that happens, take it off of here and slide it back on the metal peg. So whenever you go to put it back together, to make it a lot easier. And I usually coat this with dielectric grease to make it slide easier. And check all of your metal slip-on tabs and make sure those didn't come off. If they did, you gotta try to hunt them down and try to find them. There's one there, and there's one there. See what it looks like. All mine's still on there. We'll put that to the side and put all the screws to the side. Try to keep everything organized as much as possible. Okay. So now we're going to get it ready to do the timing set on it. So first thing we're going to do, pull the spark plug wire, 16 millimeter, take the spark plug out. And there's really two reasons for taking the spark plug out. Number one is it makes it easier to turn the engine over, because if you didn't have the spark plug removed, you'd be turning over and all the compression of the engine would be pushing up against the head, and with the spark plug removed, it just blows it out the hole. So it makes it a lot easier. Plus, if you want to check the piston height, once you got your timing set to make sure it's on top dead center, you can just stick it in there, and you'll be able to feel the top of the piston. Okay, so get you in here and see a little bit. Right in here, right in here is a cap you have to take off. There's two 8 millimeter bolts. You just loosen them a little at a time, because it has an O-ring seal on it, and you don't want to distort that O-ring, so loosen it a little at a time until you get it loose enough to where you can turn it by hand. And I like to do is I like to stick the other hand up in here with this finger and hold the cap while I take the bolt out. That way I'll stop from accidentally dropping the bolt down in the engine. There's one bolt. And there's the other. And that's what the cap looks like. It has an O-ring seal on it. Okay, that's the intake. And just in case you didn't know, the intake is going to be the one close. The intake valve is going to be the one closest to your carburetor or your electronic fuel injection. Your exhaust valve is going to be the one closest to your exhaust pipe. Okay, so we're going to take a radiator and get that out of the way for now. And it has one 8 millimeter bolt. Take that out. Push the radiator this way and lift it straight up, wiggling it to get it out of the bottom down here and its holder. You can see right here, there's two pegs. Two round pegs, and they go down into, I'm gonna get you some light over here. We go down into those two rubber holes there. Got rubber grommets in the holes, and it just sets down into that. Okay, and back in here is our exhaust. Okay, can you see that? Gotta make sure the light's not in the way there. Okay. Same thing, we're gonna take and loosen a little at a time. So not to distort the seal. Hold the cap with one finger. Okay, there's one bolt. Whoa. And there's the other bolt. And here's the cap. Looks just like the other side. It has an O-ring seal on it. Okay. Now, we're going to go over the other side, and I'm going to show you how to set the timing. There's two caps. There's one right here, and there's one up here. You have to take these two caps off. Okay, you can use a large flathead screwdriver or whatever you want to get in there, but what I use is a nickel. See that? Nickel and a pair of pliers. The nickel fits in there pretty good. As you can see, this has got a O-ring on it as well. Okay. Then I'll take a 90-degree pair of pliers, angled pliers. And loosen that one. Sometimes this one's a little bit difficult. I don't know if you can see or not, but my nickel got bent a little bit. Okay. And there's that one with an O-ring seal. Okay, so this is a 14 millimeter with a ratchet on it. You want to set it to loosen. So you're going counterclockwise. So you'll be turning it like this. I'm going to be turning it. You're not going to see me turning it because I got to put you on the other side so you can watch the valve. So I'll show you that. Okay. If I can get that out of the way. Get you in there where you can see. Okay. I think you can see that pretty good. This right here is what we're going to be looking at. This right here. This is the adjuster that sets on the rocker arm that pushes the intake valve down. We're going to watch it, and we're going to watch it go down and then back up. And once it goes down and back up, it's completed the intake cycle. And then we'll stop and go back to the other side, and I'll show you the rest of the procedure. Okay, so now I'm turning it. See, it's going down, but let me pass this cycle up so you can see a little more longer here. Okay, so now I'm turning it, turning it, turning it, turning it, turning it, turning it. I keep turning it, turning it, Okay, now it's starting to go down. You see it go down? It's going down, down. I'm turning it, it's going down, down, down. I'm turning it. Okay, it popped up. Okay. And you stop turning it. And we'll come back to the other side. I'm going to show you the procedure and then I'll get you in there and let you see the timing mark. So, what you do is you set your ratchet at about 3 o'clock position. Okay, you see that? I can't see. Okay, 3 o'clock position, and then you turn it until you're about the 1 o'clock position. About 12 o'clock is about where that mark is, but we want to take it slow and make sure that we get to that mark. So what you want to do is you want to take you some compressed air and go in and just blow that layer of oil off so you can see the mark easier. If you don't have it, a piece of vacuum hose works just fine. Stick it down in the hole and just give it a couple blows and it'll blow it off. Okay, so you get you a light and you turn it slowly. Whoa. And you watch for this mark. There it is right there. So it's straight up 12 o'clock on that. Okay, what you don't want to do, if you pass the mark up, you don't want to go clockwise to try to line the mark up. You want to keep going counterclockwise with it. So if you pass it up too far, you just have to go back around, do the intake cycle again, and just repeat the process that I showed you. Okay, so I'm gonna get you in here to where you can see, hopefully. See the T and the line? Still has some oil in the line. I didn't blow it out the greatest. See the T and see the line right next to it, to the right of it. That line needs to line up with the notch in the hole. When you have that line lined up with the notch in the hole and the T to the left, you're at top dead center compression stroke. Okay? And that's where we need to be. So, we're done with this over here. So we need to button this back up. So we'll put us a little bit of oil on our O-ring and we'll work it around. And just run it down to where it's snug. My hand, and take your little cap, a little oil in it, work it around, put it on. I'll discuss a little bit about what the oil's for whenever we go to put the caps on for the valve. The valve adjustment. Okay, run this down to where it's snug, and then just give it just a little bit more so that O-ring will seat down in there. You don't want to get these things too overly tight, because if you do, it might be a real booger after it's going through a couple of heat cycles to get that back off. So snug is all you need. Okay, wipe off the excess oil from lubricating the O-ring. Okay, so then we're going to come to this side. Okay, now on the intake side, on the intake valve clearance adjustment, the size that you need to put it in spec is 0.08. That's for the intake. And the way I do this is I do the go, no-go method. My go is going to be whatever the spec is, 0.08 millimeter. The no-go is going to be the next size bigger, which is 0.10 millimeter. So when I'm done, this one will go, this one won't go. I'll show you that on the exhaust valve. I already done this valve. I can't really get in there and do everything and show you anything on this valve, but it has the proper set adjustment on it. So I'm going to show you how to do this adjustment on the exhaust valve. Okay, let me pull this radiator out of the way so we can both see. Now watch that clamp, it doesn't scratch your tank. Okay. Now, let me try to get us some light on the subject. Try to get some light without getting the light in the way. Okay, we're down here. Okay, I think we can see that pretty good. Okay, yeah. Now, I'm gonna loosen my adjustment so I can show you how to set the adjustment. It's a 10 millimeter. Just loosen that and loosen the adjuster. Okay, so now on the exhaust valve, it takes a 0.12 millimeter. That's the go. The no-go is a 0.15 millimeter. That's the next size bigger. So this is my go, 0.12. This is my no-go, 0.15. So I put my go, my 0.12, in here, and I adjust this to where I feel a drag on it, okay? Now, this is the best tool. I would say that you probably need to invest in one. It has a square hole in the end, one size smaller than the other. But that square hole, there's one on this end too, but the square hole, the smallest one, fits right on this square end of the adjuster. So all you need to do is move this adjuster at the same time. Leave your feeler gauge in there, but at the same time, sometimes it's difficult to get all your hands in here, but get a slight drag on it like that. Okay, that feels pretty good right there. All right, so I'll take my wrench off, or my special wrench, and then I'll get my small wrench here. Okay, make sure your adjuster is set right. Okay, and then you just take your wrench and you tighten it up. Okay, sometimes it's hard to get everything in there. The camera's kind of in the way too. Okay. See what that feels like. Yeah, that's got a nice drag to it. Okay. So put that in there to where it goes in. It's nice snug drag. Okay. And I tightened it. I'm just going to finish tightening it a little bit with this. Make sure it's snug. Sometimes this will move on you and sometimes it doesn't. See, mine didn't move at all. And I got it nice and tight. So my proper adjustment of 0.12 will go in. It slides in. Now, my other one, 0.15, my no-go should not slide in, and it doesn't. Okay, see, that doesn't slide in at all, but my proper spec does. It slides right in there, so that's perfect. Okay, so that adjustment's right. Now see, normally what I do is I'll use this longer wrench if I have this front piece off, and I get this longer wrench on there and tighten it down, but it hits on this plastic front piece, so I couldn't use it for this demonstration. Okay, so we got this adjusted. It's at the proper spec. So now we need to get our oil can. And give it a little bit of squirt of oil. And just work it around. Okay. And then I like to leave the bolt in the far corner and then put it in. And the reason you oil that O-ring is that you want that O-ring, when it hits the mating surface, to be free to expand out and to seal the two pieces of metal from leaking any oil. And that oil makes it slick enough where the O-ring will move. So you want to put oil on it. Don't ever put sealer on an O-ring. Okay, so now you want to snug these up just a little bit. A little each time. Work it down. And you want that tight, but you don't want to gorilla tight. You don't want to be stripping anything or breaking anything. Then you take your rag and you wipe your excess oil off, just like you did on your caps, to make sure you don't have any oil, standing oil on it. Okay, so this is done. The exhaust is done. So we're going to take the radiator, take the strap off of it, move it back into position. Let's see what we can see. Move it back into position, line the holes up at the bottom, and shove it down, and lean it forward and line that hole up for your bolt. And put your bolt in. Okay, snug that down. Okay, now you're done with that. So we're looking over here. And we're going to do the intake. Put the cap back on it. So, I'm going to take the cap, put a little oil on it. And work it around. Okay. Now I like to put this bolt that's closest to me in first, and hold that on there to where it doesn't, where it's covering the hole in the motor, so you don't drop anything down in it. And just work it down a little bit and get the other bolt. Put that one in. Go down as far as you can by hand. So it stops on both sides by hand. Okay. Take your 8mm. Run down a little bit on each side. Snug it down. Snug it down. Okay, so now I'm gonna wipe this off. Make sure there's no oil residue around that either. Okay, now we're gonna put the spark plug back in. If you've seen any of my other videos, you know that I run a NGK iridium spark plug. It's a really good plug. You can see mine burns pretty good. And I like the iridium plugs. You know, if you had a 4-cylinder or even a 2-cylinder engine and it was started a misfire, a small little misfire, you never even probably notice it. But on a single cylinder, you'll definitely notice it. Now, I'm not saying that you won't have a misfire with the iridium plug, but to me, it seems like they're more reliable. Okay, tighten the spark plug down, drop the water on until it goes all the way down. Okie doke. So now we've got it all adjusted. We've got all of our ports closed back up, properly tightened. So now all we have to do is start it up and check for leaks. Keys. Feel around in there and try to feel for anything seeping out around the cap. Do a visual check as well. Come over here with these caps, make sure the caps are sealed. Looks good. So now we're going to put the plastic back on. First things first, we're going to put the big one on, side fairing. Okay, I'm going to move some of these tools out of the way that we're not going to be using anymore. Okay. Now, we're going to take this part right here and slide it onto here first. And then there's a push pin right here. You're going to push into here. And then this right here is going to go over that right there. So, take this, line it up, slide it forward, line the pin up, push it on, line that up and set that on. Everything else just kind of falls into place. Down here at the bottom, this push pin, you just gotta line this up and pop it in like that. Okay. And you got to start putting all your screws in. Let me get a piece of cardboard to lay it on. Okay. I always start at the bottom because it pulls the pieces together. Oh wait a minute, I need to get a light where you can see. That screw in. Another one up here. And one to the side. One all the way at the top, underneath the headlight. Okay, double check them, make sure they're tight. Okay. And then this one down here, sometimes this one's a little tricky to get in the hole. There we go. Then that's all done to that point. And we take this and we'll come up here. Okay, you get the light up here. You can see. Okay. Get the screwdriver so I walk that on. Okay. Now, first things first, we need to put the wires back together. Right here, can you see this? Okay. Our wire usually is down below, it dangles down while you're putting the fairing on. Okay, so all you do is match the blue to the blue, push it in until it snaps. Green to the green, push it in until it snaps. And then just kind of shove this wire out of the way. Back in there a little bit, okay? And you take your plastic with your 3 screws. Now when you put this plastic in, you just slide it in like this. And see where this red piece right here is? You want to tuck it underneath that first, like that. Whoops, sorry about that. And then drop it down, and then drop this side in and push it sideways. And it'll just fall right into place. First time I've done that, I had a difficult time with it. It's wanting to hang up everywhere. So I found that it has a little lip down here that it has to push underneath of this, and then that tucks underneath there. You'll see what I mean whenever you go to do yours. Okay, then these other 2 screws are the same size screws, so it doesn't matter which hole they go in. Okay, that's done. So now we're to the point of putting the side panels back on. Okay. So you've probably seen this 100 times, but the hooks go into the slots first, like that. Just drop it down in there, and then it pushes towards the rear tire like that. This snaps in like that, and then you take your screw that's got the sharp end on it, and the screwdriver, and just put the screw in. Okay, that's one. Two. And an 8mm bolt. Sometimes you gotta leave these a little loose in order to get that bolt started. Okay. So now, we'll come back over onto this side. And we'll put the side panel on this one. And it's the same procedure. Hooks go down in the holes. Push the back, snaps in, and then sharp spiky screw goes to the front. Looks like a sheet metal screw. Okay, this other one here. 8mm bolt. Then the front seat, 2 8mm bolts. That's in the rear seat. And a little smash down. Okay, that's it. It's a little bit warm in here this morning. Humidity's pretty high today, so that does it for the 2022 Lifan KPR 200 valve gap, valve lash, valve clearance check and adjustment. As long as you use the go, no-go method, you'll get it spot on. Don't worry about it. Once you set it like that, you're right. So you don't have to second guess yourself. It's an easy procedure. Don't be intimidated by it. It doesn't take that much time, but it's a very important part of the performance of your motorcycle. So make sure that you do this procedure. Myself, I did mine right after I put it together, and I have almost 1,400 miles on it now. It probably doesn't need to be done as much as I've been doing it, but I just wanted to keep an eye on it to see if it was moving in the adjustment at all, because I really wanted it to perform at the top level. But just follow, at least at the minimum, follow the maintenance procedures and your owner's manual, the guidelines of the interval. 3,728 miles, I believe is what it said. But I would do it before that, but that's up to you. But it's an easy procedure, doesn't take that long. I know it's been less than an hour since I started on this. So anyway, thanks for watching.